Hey guys, so I want to talk about typing by eye and basically all about typing by eye, what is required, like what knowledge is required to type by eye, etc. Usually I am running into a lot of people or the attitude, I guess, that the quiz is useless and that typing by eye is the way to go. So if you look at someone, you can kind of see that they are a bit balanced or whatever, so they're a classic, or they have more sharpness, so they're a dramatic, things like that. So let me tell you why I think this is a problem, okay? And it's a problem because one of two reasons. People type by eye in two ways, either with their predetermined notions of what yin and yang is without really studying what Kibbe said yin and yang is. As an example, we kind of as a society think that long legs are very feminine, and that's actually a yang characteristic. Long arms and legs are answer A, or answer B if they're a bit muscular. Anyway, the point is that there is some societal bias there, right? So that could be one problem is, if you don't really deeply study the quiz, because what is the quiz, right? The quiz tells you what each body part looks like in its yang form and in its yin form. So if you don't know that, then how are you typing by eye? Maybe you're typing by eye through stereotypes of the types. And that's a problem in and of itself because, the stereotypes don't always work. What determines the type is the yin-yang balance. So if you are confused by the quiz, then honestly, I don't think you can type. I don't know how else to say this. I know this sounds really mean, but you could have had a lot of luck typing yourself because you fit the descriptions, but not everyone is going to fit the stereotypical descriptions of each type. And if you don't know what each body part looks like in its yin state and in its yang state, then you can't really look at a person and sort of calculate in your mind without societal bias, in Kibbe's system, what the balance of yin and yang is. Another thing is that we overemphasize the waspish waist as being very feminine, and if we see someone with a waspish waist, we think automatically, oh, they must be a theatrical romantic because they have a waspish waist. Remember, Audrey Hepburn was flamboyant gamine, and she has a waspish waist, and not to mention her waist to hip ratio was actually smaller than Marilyn Monroe's. So, that is not, that's not the way to type by eye, is to really understand the answers to the quiz, because the quiz itself, the body types test, the body types quiz, whatever, is what's going to tell you what each body part looks like in its yin state and in its yang state. And then you can, through practice, you can really understand, what someone's yin yang balance is when you look at them. And then you can check through clothing recommendations. At the end of the day, if you are typing as one type but you look horrible in that type's clothing, then that's not your type. That's because, and maybe people will disagree with this attitude that I have, but in my mind, the whole point is to figure out which clothing looks best on you, right? So, let's say Charlize Theron as an example. So she is a theatrical romantic, and Kibbe typed her as a theatrical romantic. And I made a whole video on, how this happened, right? That her yang answers are not mixed enough to make her gamine, and she has predominantly yin answers, and those are her defining characteristics. So now you get into more advanced topics, like let's say if you do really figure out your yin and yang balance, but for some reason the clothing recommendations don't look good on you. So then you get into, I guess, more advanced topics where it's like, well, what is your most defining characteristic? And maybe if your height really stands out or your large eyes really stand out, that could contribute more largely to your yin-yang balance because that one feature really stands out, so it counts for more. But we're not going to just say that, you know, a certain feature such as a waspish waist automatically counts for more, because that's not true. There are 14 or 15 questions on the test. There are all kinds of, you know, we have a lot of body parts that determine our yin and yang balance. It's not just large eyes or voluptuous lips or a large chest or large hips, small waist. Like, those are just a couple of questions. How about, are you neglecting, you know, the flesh on your arms and legs? Are you neglecting shoulders? Like, what do yin shoulders look like? Do you know the difference between answer D, shoulders, and answer A, shoulders? You know, and can you really say that, you know, you understand the yin yang balance and what it looks like in real life if you don't understand that, and if you don't understand other questions in the same way? It's not just the questions, right? It's not just the test, you know, it's actually explaining what each body part looks like in its yin state and in its yang state. So that's really important, you know? That's really important. So anyway, yeah, so how do I personally type people, right? So personally, I go through the questions on the test, either in my head or on paper if I have to, and I just go through the test, right? And I see what the yin and yang balance is, because it's not helpful always to use stereotypes, because stereotypes can be wrong. Again, I have a video on this, part 1 of my Why You Can't Find Your Kibbe Type series. So if you haven't watched that already, I would hope that you watch it. But using stereotypes is not always helpful. It can actually be harmful sometimes. Or you could get lucky and the stereotypes are good, you know? But it's not always the answer. So you can't rely on it. It's not reliable. So the way I type people is I do the quiz, and then I see if the clothing recommendations look good on them, because that's the whole point, right? That's the whole point. That's why we're all here. That's why we're all doing this. You know, we want the clothing recommendations to work, okay? So that's how I do it. And yeah, so that's it. So if you guys have questions, let me know. And if you have video requests, let me know. And also, if you want to know what I think your Kibbe type is, then you can email me. And yeah, why not? Like, I'll let you know what I think it is, and it'll be fun. And yeah, we can talk and stuff. Yeah, so I hope that this kind of made you think more about, you know, the Kibbe system, and made you consider thinking about just learning more about the yin characteristics of each feature versus the yang characteristics of each feature, etc. So anyway, thanks for watching, you guys. Bye.